of course, you have threats from, the likes of China, Timu, your Sheins, that are coming in. But our drive, and even with the people that we've, engaged with who are speaking to us about placing, is how do we build South African economies and businesses for South Africans?
We got it next. That's how you finesse. We come for they next. We come to collect. Did it all on my own, yeah. When it brought it back home, yeah. Now they calling my phone, yeah. But I'm all in my zone. They not a threat. Tell them reset. When they're at their best, we still not impressed. Did it all on my own, yeah. When it brought it back home, yeah. Bought a watch with the stones, yeah.
Right before we start, we want to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Chapter. Chapter ensures that your online business never sleeps. We started Chapter when you realize that businesses use social media to talk to their customers and they end up losing up to 40% of their sales due to abandoned carts. This happens when a customer DMs you on Instagram, a customer sends you a message on WhatsApp and you're not able to respond within 7 minutes. This then leads the customer to look for another business to look for that particular good or service that you're offering. With Chapter, you can be able to elevate the customer experience by running AI agents that can be able to respond to customers in less than 30 seconds on both Instagram and WhatsApp. If you want to make sure your business never sleeps, if you want to make sure that you can increase the revenue you're able to make by up to 5x, just visit www.chapter.co and we'll be able to help you. So that's Chapter without an A, so chpter.co, and we'll be able to turn your business into a business that will thrive in the AI future.
Hello, champions. Welcome back to the Chapter Champions podcast, your favorite African entrepreneurship podcast. And we're still in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and very excited today to welcome another guest, Mark. And just before I introduce Mark, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when the next episode drops. Yes, so Makhosi is a dynamic entrepreneur who was born in this vibrant city. He's the founder of Ingane, a company that locally makes unique South African baby clothes and kids apparel. And he conceived this brand a few years ago when his son was born. And we're very excited to hear that story of how that came to life because, I'm really excited about how the South African brands are tying the whole story to heritage and to the diversity of the South African people and by extension, the African people. So that should be exciting. A few episodes ago, we hosted Batu and told us that Batu means shoes.
Yes.
And Ingane means kids in Zulu, right?
Child, yes.
Yeah, child.
Yes.
So I really like this, the simplicity in branding, but also the connection to the heritage. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tesh. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks to all your viewers and I'm glad to be on the channel.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we'll start with question we like, which is just hearing what your favorite life or business quote is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my favorite, and I learned this from a manager I had several years ago. There's nothing more valuable to a community than a well-run business.
Okay.
There are a lot of things that happen when you're able to provide livelihoods, help empower people, find meaning in work that they do. It's the more you think about it over time, the more it actually makes it makes an incredible amount of sense. So that's definitely by far one of my favorite life quotes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Businesses are, at least in Africa, for example, 80% of the jobs are generated by businesses. So that's massive.
100%, yeah. In particular, small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
They are the engine room. I think in South Africa, it's more than 50 or 60% of jobs are created by SMEs. So
that's quite something. And so for Mark, like, what's your story? Who are you?
Yeah. Where do I start? Where do I start?
Anywhere.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually career-wise, first of all, I'm a family man. Let's start there.
Okay.
My wife, have my son, who I'll talk a bit about later on.
Okay.
You've touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm an engineer. I'm a qualified engineer, so that's actually been my practice, my trade. For 15 years, I've been in the corporate world.
Wow.
For over 15 years at various levels, having started with designing and building plants, chemical plants. I've worked in food industry, chemicals industries. And again, I say that at various levels. So that's kind of been my trajectory up until a year ago, when I decided, I think it's a bit time now for me to pivot, and try and build something that is for future generations, something that is my own. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And prior to what did you study?
So I studied mechanical engineering.
Okay.
I was always interested in designing cars. That's actually where I started.
Okay.
As a kid. I'm the first engineer in my family.
Nice.
Everyone else is in sort of finance type fields.
Yeah.
I was the one who went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I studied at UCT, so in Cape Town. I spent quite a few years there, so I know Cape Town quite well. But the rain was a bit too much for me. I decided to come up here.
Okay. Prior to that, you were born and bred here?
So I was born in Swaziland.
Okay.
I was born and bred in Swaziland. That's home.
Okay.
There's a little country there off to the on the map off to the right.
Yeah.
Grew up there as a kid. Spent some time in the US when my father was studying there, actually. Then came back onto this side, and then came to South Africa.
Okay.
So I'm a bit of everything mixed into one.
Got it. Okay, that's cool. Then 1 year ago, something happens that changes your life. And becoming a parent is a big thing. I remember when my son was born, I haven't been happier
yes.
in my life than that day. I was so happy when my firstborn son was born.
Yes.
I felt a change. I just felt like life will never be the same again. And for you, that extended into starting a business. Or the idea to start a business. Yeah, I'm curious about how all this transpired.
Yeah. So it was about 3 years ago, actually. Because my son turned 3 in October. But prior to that, the excitement just before your child is born. There's all the going to try and find prams and all the baby stuff in preparation of his arrival. And one of the things we did was go to expos, the big expos. And it was at an expo that, we were there and found quite nice clothing, which is, got funny, quirky sayings on it, and one thing that was glaring was we could find a lot of products which are in English, of course, in Afrikaans, but could not find anything in our own language, which is Siswati, Zulu.
Yeah.
So this was the beginning of, I guess, maybe to a certain degree, frustration.
Okay.
But then, it led to me thinking in a bigger sense, why in a country where, let's say, 25% of the population speaks English and Afrikaans, and the balance is, and we've got 11 languages and official languages. The balance is isiZulu, Xhosa, Sotho, Tswana, Sepedi, Tshivenda, Xitsonga. So that's 75%,
Wow.
And yet you cannot find anything in that segment, written in those languages. So you take, and the big ones, really, the top four are 22% is Zulu speaking, 16% is Xhosa. Sesotho split between northern and southern Sotho is about 16% as well. And then I think Setswana at about 8%. So, you're talking about a large part of the population that is not connected to its own culture through language from a young age. And that for me was what I really wanted to try and cultivate and build more of in a much bigger way than just in small nucleuses. So have something that's a prominent brand for South Africans.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a wild realization. Seems very obvious, but it's not. that you could build a business out of that.
It does seem pretty obvious. And so even for me, it was a bit surprising, actually. So of course, from the 3 years and a bit ago, part of that was sort of just making sure that, hey, are you sure no one solved this problem?
So you're looking everywhere.
Is there something I'm missing? Is there something that I'm missing? And lo and behold, I think there's a couple of people who would do bespoke clothing, if you need it, but nothing that's built as a brand that you can find, even whether it's in retail stores or So that's kind of where the whole journey began, and from there, it was frog marching us to where we are today. Still, I would say at the beginning, relatively at the beginning, but we're definitely in a different space from where we were as an idea 3 years ago.
Yeah. So walk me through the journey to deciding I'm gonna focus on this full time. Like, were you already thinking I need to jump out of the corporate cycle?
Yeah.
What gives you enough conviction to be like, I'm going all in? Yeah.
That's the $1 million question, right? Yeah. It's so it's a bit of a process, and it starts with. I started with trying to build some of the basic blocks first. Yeah. Of course, it's a big step.
Yeah.
Not an easy one either. You get comfortable with having that regular income.
Yes.
But I'm quite fortunate and lucky to have quite a good, strong support system around me.
Yeah.
So, funny story is actually the second time I was leaving corporate. I left the first time with great intentions.
Yeah.
To go and do this.
Okay.
And then I was pulled back into corporate. This is probably ago. 2 years ago.
Okay.
2.5 years ago.
So you were psyched, you're pumped.
Yeah, I was.
I have a kid that's a month old.
I was psyched, I was pumped. And of course, you can imagine, Tesh, it's also having a newborn,
yeah.
Yeah. And what I didn't want to happen is to get to a point where there's so much, you get responsibilities, especially as they grow, and that as well.
Yeah.
And so you've got to provide as well. So in my mind, it was now or never.
Okay.
That was really the driving force. So the first time I left, got pulled back, and what I thought I could do is try and find spare time whilst I'm doing the main job.
Yeah.
But the demands on you in the corporate space where you have to try and balance that and balance family and do everything else. And what I found in particular, because it's only once I totally left and disconnected, that all of the deeper thinking, the deeper research work, the deeper learning, especially around things like algorithms, how algorithms are, we're an e-commerce business, you know, how do you place? You know, how are you AI? You know, you've got to have an understanding of these things, you know, at a basic level. You know, you don't necessarily have to be an expert, but you've got to understand. It's only when I totally stepped away that I really started having more time to think. And it's very difficult to split yourself between the stresses of, you know, a corporate job and, you know, trying to build a business. And then, so if I was still in corporate, I wouldn't be able to be sitting here, for example, with you.
It's 9 a.m. on a Friday.
This is important, and this is important work for a business. So that was how I eventually got to a point of, I think whilst my son is still quite young, let's take the plunge. And we both are relatively young. Me and my wife. So I'd like to believe there's still, you know, a chance to do something for him that he can benefit from in future.
So not to put your wife on the spotlight, but like how did she take the whole idea of doing this? She's
been very supportive, incredibly supportive. You know, there's, and especially even the first time around. And I think she understands what the bigger vision is.
Big up to Mrs. Makhosi. You know, it's not, I think this is one of those things that goes 50-50. I know many entrepreneurs who can actually even could cause a rift in the marriage because it's tough.
Yes. It's very, very tough. And it's not without worry or concern, you know. But when you're clear in your mind what it is you're trying to achieve and you believe, because that's a very big part of I think what helped me make the jump as well. Is one, having spent enough time in thinking about it, in understanding and saying, but guys, come on. I mean, there can't not be someone doing this, you know? And then the opportunity, you know, in it. So I think those things combined have really helped, to help weather the storm a little bit in not causing more complications and problems than in trying to be an entrepreneur.
Very interesting. So I like that you've been in this for a year because it means it's still very fresh. So for guys who are very early on in the journey, what are the things that you could say you've focused your attention on that have led to Ingane being such a success in a very short period of time?
So I think one, customer experience, focusing on listening to and getting the feedback. We're very, very fortunate that, you know, our community online has grown fairly quickly. And we actually engage and participate with the community online quite well. So you'll have people say, oh, this is really cool. Love the brand. You know, how about we have, you know, and we'll add a word or a saying, and we'll actually add
contribute.
They contribute. So you know, we co-create with our customers. You know, and so that is one part that I would say, be customer focus oriented. In the new world, data is king, and readily available.
Yeah.
The one thing is you've got to build a bit of it.
Yeah.
So that takes time. So I would say to definitely, if you're thinking about sort of an online type business, you got to think about that aspect of it.
Yeah.
It does take time to do those things. It's not you press a switch, but be led by your data, not emotions and feelings and
vibes
and vibes. 100 exactly.
Yeah.
Please don't be led by vibes.
Yeah.
The success of your business will be contingent upon what the majority or aggregated majorities is saying.
Yeah.
We tend, and I see it all the time, so like, but I really like this, and you listen to one solitary voice out there in the corner, and you don't make decisions about how you go about doing things without checking and testing the data.
Makes sense.
So that is absolutely key. Be led by the data, and then pivot once you see something. Pivot quickly. One of the things that you have the advantage of, and I can tell you the difference being in corporate versus being an entrepreneur, we can make a decision today to do something tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or this afternoon.
Yeah.
There's nothing standing in your way. Having been in the corporate world, it's, it takes, there's a lot of paper. Let's just say there's a lot of paperwork you got to get through.
Yeah.
Right. So, leverage that. It's a fantastic strength.
Yeah.
For small businesses, startups.
Interesting. Yeah. So listen to your customers a lot, and based on their feedback, iterate, even if it's daily.
100%.
I like
100%.
One of my favorite entrepreneurs is Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT.
Yes.
And one of the things he says is, as a startup, you have the opportunity to make up to 365 iterations a year, because literally you can be changing something, tweaking something in your product every single day. So it's exactly what you're saying versus a corporate, which, might need to have a monthly leadership meeting where big decisions are made, so they can only iterate 12 times a year.
Yes.
So that's a massive, advantage. So very cool. Yeah. And in terms of getting the brand out there, you mentioned online. What's your philosophy around, online versus offline, in store? What's your vision for that growth?
Yeah. So again, very much aligned to what I've, spoken a little bit to now, is follow the trend, follow the data.
Yeah.
What I do believe is the South African market is not yet as mature as e-commerce. When I say e-commerce market, as mature as other more developed nations. So you take the US,
West.
UK, like the West.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, and probably also true in the African continent.
Yeah.
Right. We're not quite there yet, but in building and thinking about the brand and the business, actually, not just the brand, is we're building a business for next year, 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Don't build a business for today. So that's where, the thinking is behind being an e-commerce shop. Okay. However, we're still fragmented in South Africa.
Yeah.
So people still want to touch and feel the product. And these are things that we were learning. Okay. We're learning as we go along.
Yeah.
So
maybe like customers would ask you, where can I find?
100%. Where do we find? And it's two things. One, where do we find it? Yeah. But the second is social trust. Okay. So it's a real thing.
Yeah. Hard scamming is a thing. I mean, it is in Kenya.
Yes. Yeah. So scamming is a major problem. Yeah. And you've got to allow yourself the time, the runway to develop, say, your social media platforms, for example, so that when people are now we've got people who are anecdotal. Like, yes, they actually can show you, yes, here is the product.
Yeah.
and post pictures. And so now you tend to see that. And that's really important for people's trust, first of all. And of course, you making sure that the customer service and operations part is key. But the way I think about online versus in-store is really, you have to have, and you don't have, it's not either or. There's a space in between. So things like markets, expos, pop-up markets. So that's your opportunity to place and promote.
Yes.
Yeah, that's your opportunity to place and promote. But so you're paying once off.
Yeah.
But you don't have to permanently be there.
Yeah.
And you start using that and you can actually use that as your marketing as well. One of the things that we are now, has started happening with us is we've started getting requests from people who own baby stores and kids stores to place our product in them. So
nice.
So that's what started happening. We've been contacted online. Love the brand, love the story behind it. Would you be prepared to place in our stores?
What do you think? That's wholesale now.
So an interesting thought, and I had this conversation with another entrepreneur probably 2 days ago, and the conversation was around, if you're an entrepreneur, do you stick with only e-commerce, or do you start thinking about your business in buckets? So I'll have a segment which is wholesale.
Yes.
I'll have a segment which is e-commerce. I'll have a segment which is in-store consignment.
Yes.
I'll have a segment which is sort of giveaway or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But when you're starting out, when we look at big brands, we think, they somehow just arrived there and were, they were in store and they're just like that. But the reality is, all of those different buckets give you some level of visibility somewhere, and they are part of brand building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it will vary and depend, I guess, based on product. But in my mind, you need to make a conscious decision and effort and be, I would say, selfish about where you're going to place. So, and it's not an if or. It's, we can have a conversation about wholesale, but we can have a conversation about consignment as well.
Yes.
We haven't made a decision. We haven't made a call yet. Just to tell you, Tesh, we haven't made a call yet.
Yeah.
But what is clear is we definitely are really excited and happy that
you have the opportunity.
Yes, we have the opportunity and
that's demand.
Yes. The demand is coming along.
Yeah.
So we're very happy about that.
Interesting. So what are some of the best sellers, like some of the quotes?
Yeah. So some of the best ones, the best sellers, and we also do custom printing.
Okay. So if you want to see your kid's name or something.
Yes. So got a brilliant one the other day, which I was just gobsmacked at.
Yeah.
And she's ordered Gunye, Gubili, Gutatu.
1, 2, 3. Correct.
Uh-huh. So she's having triplets. Yes. So it's 1, 2, 3. So that I found, we get all sorts of these quirky ones, and it's quite fun even for us, right? But some of the big ones are like Agulalwa, which means we don't sleep. Isipiwo Senkosi, which is God's gift or a gift from God. There's quite a few. Gies in Afrikaans is, so we also have Afrikaans. Gies is quite a popular one. There's quite a few.
What does that mean?
Spirit. So they say, bring the chias.
Yes.
Bring the spirits.
Bring the spirit. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But what we, being so relatively new, and again, talking about building data, because that's the stuff that will inform how we transform.
Yeah.
I think because some people are still discovering the brand, we think that there's still some that people are going to go after that.
Keep learning and introducing.
Yes.
So you'll figure out the bestseller soon. The real bestseller.
Yeah, the real bestsellers we'll figure out soon. But people do like to customize.
Yeah.
They like that the idea that I can make something that is totally my own. It's a once off. No one else has it.
Human beings love creating, so
yes.
I'm not surprised. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the next thing is, you're an engineer before.
Yes.
What are some of the superpowers of, from your background or personally, that you think have really come through in this entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah. So of course, as an engineer, although that was my training, my background, my profession, I evolved into supply chain space. So I worked in supply chain. I am also a certified supply chain professional.
Okay.
I then worked in innovation and digital spaces. I've worked in leadership roles, looking after very large teams. So I would say probably one of the things that's really stood in good stead for me has been an understanding of business operations, how to connect all the different parts of a business and components. For I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you kind of, if you haven't been steeped in it for a couple of decades, you kind of have the challenge of having to figure that part out as well. Understanding the finance side of the business, forecasting, understanding your cost structure, your P&L, understanding how, tying up cash in the business, working capital, how to figure those things out. And I think that for me has been the part that I don't have to learn. So it gives me the room and space, and the one part where I need the most help is because I've been in B2B business for many years, and only for a few years in a B2C environment, is the marketing and sales. And so there's been a steep learning curve for me, but also I am, leveraging where I'm getting assistance in that space. And, even having had the very brief conversation with yourself before this, I think is really, it gives exposure. And I think with Chapter Champions, and of course what you are doing is helping us as entrepreneurs, SMEs, to not have to carry such a big weight in that part of business. And whilst all of the product stuff and establishing the engine room, as I call it, of the business is important, what's even more important is conversions. In fact, it's the one thing that matters the most. Because
eyeballs.
That is the business. The business is selling. So I would say the thing that I've brought with me has really been quite a solid base and foundation in the mechanics of
the back end.
Yes, the business.
You're figuring out the front end.
Correct. That's a very nice way of putting it. The back end. So figuring out the front end. And if I could add there, Tesh, is there are quite a few things that we've had to learn, or not so much learn, but I felt we shouldn't have had to go through. Some examples like the platform, right? That you we've decided we started with, and are now migrating away from. But you're trying to create an ecosystem for your business so that when a customer places an order, it all flows through quite easily for you to manage. And there are different platforms in South Africa, and you have to know the different capabilities to each of them, or whichever environment you're in.
So you mean technology?
Technology.
Okay.
Tech. And it's very easy to sort of lose money, if I can put it that way, or find yourself in a situation where you've got limitations because you never fully understood all the capability or lack thereof of your tech. So I think, and we've been thinking about it quite a lot, is how do we create something or an environment where people who want to build e-commerce stores, and it's becoming, the friction points are becoming much, much smaller. So it's quite easy. If you got a data connection and, a little bit savvy and a cell phone, you can put up a store. Very, very easily, within an hour or two. So that kind of stuff. But then you've got the operational side. Putting up the store is the easy part, but you've got the operational side and all the integration. So I think that for me is a big one.
Okay. Yeah, talking about that is what are some of the biggest challenge you've experienced so far? Is there a day that you felt that, oh shucks, how'd they end up doing this?
Yeah. There wasn't a day in particular, or what I will tell you is I found the biggest challenge, or the one thing I wish we had probably done differently, is started sooner.
Okay.
Yeah, started sooner. So in my spare time, there was a lot of stuff I did around building of the experience, the branding aspects, how we're going to create the layers. So even the tags in our clothes, all of that in our products. What I significantly underestimated is the runway it takes from a sales and marketing and for, everything in the front end to actually build up and build up swell. And even having said that, we're still very, very fortunate that in the time we've had. So that for me has been a bit of a, I would say that's been the biggest challenge, because in trying to gain visibility, you have to acknowledge, and that's one of the tough things with sales and marketing, is you've got to put in the rands, and sometimes it just takes time for people to, you've got to show people things like 7 times before they, they eventually bite. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Market development is
correct.
Is quite something. So with the experience you've had over the last 2 years, and just like as an engineer, I can imagine you're very analytical.
Yes.
You've mentioned data a number of times. What do you think is going to be the evolution of e-commerce over the next couple of years? What are you placing your bets on?
So it's been growing at, I think in South Africa, well, prior to that it was 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. I may stand to be corrected, but it's been growing at a significant rate.
Yeah.
I think the evolution will be that, one is the global landscape will become more open. So South African brands will have access to not just South Africa. In fact, they already don't just have access to South Africa, they have access to the world.
Yes.
South Africans live everywhere on the planet. So I think the evolution is, one, there'll just be a greater market that we can service, and within South Africa itself, I expect in the next couple of years that as people have more access to data, smartphones are becoming more of the norm.
Yeah.
And you have increasing urbanization, which for e-commerce, one of the big challenges is obviously even getting access into the townships for deliveries.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of innovations that are going to come along the way. I mean, you see with Take a Lot, the collection points and all those things is. So I think there will be, it's there's only growth looking forward for e-commerce.
Yeah.
In the short term, I still think that brick and mortar is still key.
Yes.
To be there.
Yeah.
But almost certainly you have to have a combination.
Okay. Yeah. And just to build on that, how do you think about pricing? Like, what's your demographic? Are you trying to? Yeah.
Yeah. So great question, Tesh. It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
We took a decision to very early on that where we wanted to position the brand. So we're definitely not in the low LSMs, if I can put it that way. But because the product is quite unique, we also felt that we can be a little bit more premium, if I can put it that way.
Okay.
But also in the experience and everything that's built around the product.
Yeah.
Our products are 100% organic cotton, So, and in particular, things like sustainability, eco-friendliness, all of those things, although we're not necessarily seeing it as much in South Africa or even in developing nations, will become more and more prominent. Especially in the younger generation, in the youth. As information becomes more democratized, people will be saying, look, we need to be conscious of what we're putting our into our kids or onto our kids as clothes and so on. Of course you have threats from the likes of China, Temu, your Sheins, that are coming in. But our drive, and even with the people that we've engaged with who are speaking to us about placing, is how do we build South African economies and businesses for South Africans?
Yes.
That is the absolute key.
Yeah. And your product is very unique. I mean, that's a good part. I mean, what happens is when your brand really grows, then you start getting copycats and all that stuff. But like somebody yesterday, in the previous episode actually, was just talking about the power of brand. Like build a business.
Yes.
Build a brand, not a business.
Yes.
Because then it becomes very hard to displace. So I think that's a massive advantage for you. What are your ambitions? So I mean, in Kenya we have many languages. In Kenya it's actually like 40 plus. So it's a lot.
It's a lot.
So I can relate to the problem you're solving.
Yes.
Because thinking about it, I haven't seen any clothing in our country that's outside Swahili, which is another national language. That speaks to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Do you have global ambitions, Pan-African ambitions?
Yes. So we are going global actually next week.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going global next week. So we're currently in the process of just finalizing all the back-end connections through our partner DHL, who've really helped to support us and get on board, but and remove a lot of the pain points. So we're super excited about that. What we have already been seeing is we've have actually had requests from, and we're seeing the data from visitors in UAE, Australia, UK, US.
Wow.
Yes. So
So you just needed the logistics.
we just needed to figure out a few of the things on the back, but we're really excited about that.
That's dope.
Yeah. So next week, or definitely by the 1st of December, we will you'll be able to purchase our products from wherever you are.
Yeah.
In your currency. And yeah, so we're pretty excited. We're pretty excited about.
Congratulations. That's massive.
Yeah.
And speaks to the power of e-commerce. Like
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It definitely does. And we're in a fortunate position in Africa that the strength of the currencies into the markets that we're selling into, they can afford the shipping costs. And what's nice is, there's a lot of nostalgia of missing home.
Yes.
There's a lot of nostalgia of missing home. So there are a lot of South African brands that do quite well, actually, do better in the global market than in the South African market.
Interesting.
So yes, we're really excited about that. We're going to be going global.
Yeah.
Of course. And then the other things, we've got a couple of new products that are coming in.
Yeah.
So look out for those. That's going to be quite fun and exciting. And then, as I mentioned, we will be sharing with you the locations at which you can now go and see and touch and feel our products. So those are probably the three key exciting things that are coming up for Ingane.
That's fantastic. Yeah, love to hear it. And guys, anyone trying to build a business or in the journey of building a business, we like to do this a bit differently. So if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below, and we'll make sure that Mark responds to them. I'm sure some of them are curious, and that I might not be able to ask all the questions that are popping up in the audience minds, right? So thanks a lot for coming. I'd like for you to give us your parting shot. Anything you'd like to tell the audience?
Yeah.
Let's wrap up here.
Yeah, look, I mean, do visit us and have a look at our products. Engage with us online. We love to get ideas on what you'd like to see from the brand. And I guess for entrepreneurs, the one piece of advice I'd give is start from where you are. Be it you're in a day job or a corporate job, if you've got a good idea and you truly believe in it, start from where you are. The stars will never align perfectly. So just start from somewhere and just frog march. And every business started somewhere. Every business started somewhere. I mean, you mentioned you had Theo here earlier, and he's got a fantastic story with Patu from where he started. Every business, including Microsoft, also started in a garage.
There's always day one.
There's always always day one. So your day one is today. I think that's what I would say.
Great. Just start.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mark, for making the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Tish. And thanks to you for inviting me. Really, really appreciated and enjoyed the chat.
Yes. It's a great chat. Yeah, guys. So please remember to subscribe to get notified when the next episode drops. And also follow our social media handles, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, so that you can get some snippets of this content. And just follow along on the journey. Great to see you, chumps, and see you next time.
Cheers.
We got it next. That's how you finesse. We come for they next. We come to collect. Did it all on my own, When it brought it back home, Now they calling my phone, But I'm all in my zone. They not a threat. Tell them reset. When they're at their best, we still not impressed. Did it all on my own, When it brought it back home, Bought a watch with the stones,
Right before we start, we want to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Chapter. Chapter ensures that your online business never sleeps. We started Chapter when you realize that businesses use social media to talk to their customers, and they end up losing up to 40% of their sales due to abandoned carts. This happens when a customer DMs you on Instagram, a customer sends you a message on WhatsApp, and you're not able to respond within 7 minutes. This then leads the customer to look for another business to look for that particular good or service that you're offering. With Chapter, you can be able to elevate the customer experience by running AI agents that can be able to respond to customers in less than 30 seconds on both Instagram and WhatsApp. If you want to make sure your business never sleeps, if you want to make sure that you can increase the revenue you're able to make by up to 5x, just visit www.chapter.co and we'll be able to help you. So that's Chapter without an A, so chpter.co, and we'll be able to turn your business into a business that will thrive in the AI future.